On to the range, here with your host Brandon Brown, and here with your sports panel, the Honorable Chris Gallen.
I messed up.
Cleveland Spears.
He messed up.
And J.B. Brown. Starting off with NBA talk, Chris.
All right, Thursday we had our relationship topic. And on Thursday, we also had some games. You had the Mavs and Spurs, which the Spurs won Game 6. And then we also had the Suns and the Blazers, which the Suns won Game 6. So they both advanced to play each other, which the first game would be tonight. So, what you want to talk about? How you feel about the Spurs beating the Mavs and the Suns beating the Blazers?
Spurs beating the Mavs, pretty much the Spurs capitalized on a lot of the Mavs mistakes. And also was helped and aided by Mark Cuban's hatred for the Spurs and making that known. I mean, you can hate a team, but you're gonna announce that after you win the first game of the series, and that's automatically gonna piss the team off. So Spurs already had an added motive, and George Hill pretty much had a coming out party this entire series as he ate Dallas ass up the last 3 games, ate them up. Then pretty much after George Hill had his way to the first weekend, the Mavs pretty much did not have a shot. I mean, Game 6, they pretty much had a chance to win the game after they were down like by 19, 22 points, but it was just too little, too late. And the Spurs pretty much showed the Mavericks why they pretty much owned them the last few times of this century or whatever. Now moving on to Phoenix and Portland. Portland was pretty much outmanned and they were outgunned with Phoenix. Phoenix had too much firepower, and Portland could not slow it down at all. Brandon Roy, I commend him for playing on a torn meniscus. But Portland pretty much they needed a lot more help than just Brandon Roy contributing. He only contributed just 1 game, and Portland really didn't have an answer for Amari Stoudemire nor Jason Richardson. So this matchup is pretty much something that I feel that can go 6 to 7 games. But I'm gonna go a little different way. I think Phoenix is gonna finally end all of the frustrations of losing to San Antonio.
Yeah, let's remember, that Mavs Spurs series we knew would be a competitive series, whether it was actually basketball or against each other, just fighting each other. So we saw a couple games where it got a little testy out there, but as good teams do, the Spurs kind of waited out the storm and everything and said, all right, it's time to play some basketball, and they finally came up to it. The Suns beating the Blazers, I just knew the Suns would beat the Blazers because the Blazers have nobody inside to hold Amari Stoudemire. I did not see Jason Richardson doing that in that series. So I guess he kind of surprised everybody out there. Yeah. Especially in game 5 when he had 19 points in the first half.
Yeah.
That surprised everybody because you go into halftime and even Charles Barkley said, what? He has 19 points in 24 minutes of basketball. That kind of surprised everybody. So, he's kept it up the whole series, which kind of really surprised me that it was very consistent. Now, whether I like to see him continue that into the Spurs series, because we all know who Phoenix has problems with in the playoffs. San Antonio. The last 3 times San Antonio has won the championship, who they had to face in the playoffs? The Suns. So is this an omen? This is a bad omen for the Suns, but it's a really good omen if you're the Spurs. You're kind of loving this matchup because you have them mentally and, I wouldn't say physically now because I think you're a little too hurt to play. But you got to wait it out. I do also think the Suns can get past them. But I do think this series goes to 7 games.
As far as the Spurs and the Mavs, Spurs defense. Defense pretty much won that whole entire series. Mark Cuban, he tried to fire his team up, but it backfired. Got their ass whooped, of course. As far as the Suns and the Blazers, I believe that Brandon Roy hurt the team more than he helped the team. Yeah. First game, the emotion, you can feed off the energy for the first game. But the second and third game, he came back, especially the Game 6 when he started. that right there, he had no production. You know, he couldn't score, but getting scored on, so that didn't help pretty much to me. But, I mean, as far as the Spurs and Phoenix, I mean, I picked the Spurs to go all the way to the champion. I actually picked them to win it from the very beginning of the season before Game 1. So I'm sticking with them, but I believe it's going to 7. Because I just believe that the Suns, you know, they'll play good for a few quarters and then they'll just give it up. So hopefully the Spurs will play some good defense and win that one. So let's go on to Friday. We got Hawks. Hawks won in Milwaukee, Game 6. You had the Lakers with a the Thunder with a heartbreaking loss against the Lakers at home in Game 6. Jazz closed out the Nuggets, and that was pretty much it for Friday. So which game did you like the best, and what you feel about all 3 games?
Well, the game that pretty much, I wouldn't say I liked the best, but the game that I watched most of it was Milwaukee and Atlanta. Milwaukee had all the momentum going back to them. They beat Atlanta. They beat Atlanta Game 5, and pretty much on a lucky break. So feeding off all of that emotion, all the luck in the world for Milwaukee, they had the chance to close out the Hawks after being down 0-2. But they came out flat. Brandon Jennings, John Salmons couldn't do anything. I mean, none of their shots were falling. They were falling in Game 4 and Game 3 through 5. So when your shot's not falling, you're typically not going to win or have a good outing, and it showed. They had a chance to make a really good game out of it, but Joe Johnson and Mike Bibby pretty much ceased all ideas of that, and Atlanta closed out with the win. Now, as far as the other 2 games, Denver was reeling throughout the last part of the regular season and into the playoffs without George Karl. You can obviously feel that George Karl, his presence was missed a ton. I know Chauncey Billups is a coach on the court, but you need that coach on the sideline to talk, to speak those words that you need to hear to get your game going. And as far as the Lakers and the Thunder, the game could have went either way. Both teams had every opportunity to win. Unfortunately, from the Thunder, it was the Lakers who pulled it off.
Yeah, I got to go with that. The most intriguing game that I like to watch was that Lakers-Thunder game. I don't know what it is about it. I mean, I think it's because it's such a young team going against a defending champion, which really gets your motivation going, really. And really and truly, it came down to a simple box out. That's the only thing. If Paul Gasol had been boxed out correctly, that ball doesn't go in. Thunder win by 1. So I mean, it's just a matter of just boxing out. You know what? The Thunder's a young team. Like I told these guys last week, they will be back in the playoffs next year. They will feed off of this loss and will go in the next year as a higher seed. I think they'll go in as a 6 or 7 seed next year. They got to make those baby steps, I know, but I think it's going to happen for them next year. As for the Nuggets, yes, you missed George Karl. You needed him there. It sucks that he wasn't. I heard he was rushed back to the hospital, and that kind of sucks too. So I mean, if anything, that sucks the worst. But of all games, I like that Lakers Thunder game.
As we was in Shreveport walking into the casino, and then you see the highlights of the Lakers and Thunder, and you see the Paul Gasol tip in. Like Cleveland said, being that he is a coach of all sports, boxing out, one of the key fundamentals of basketball, which Thunder did not do.
Yeah,
so
that pissed me off watching the replay.
They lost the game on that, which was very heartbreaking. I mean, most of the players that was on the court just fell to the floor. But, I mean, you got to hand it to them. They did better than most people thought they were going to do. Most people called it a sweep. So I give it to them. As far as the Bucks when losing Game 6, that right there that was a killer, I believe. I really believe that was a killer. As far as the Jazz and the Nuggets, yeah, just like JB said, the Nuggets were reeling. The Jazz pretty much had all the momentum, and then they just closed it out. So I want to give it to the Jazz. And then that was pretty good right there as far as Thursday and Friday games of basketball.
More on the range. Stay tuned.
Welcome back here on the range, and we were in our, what was it, Thursday and Friday picks. We're now going to our